No real delay. Let's keep this moving pretty fast. Ranking every Best Picture nomination from this year. We're going to start with number 10, being The Secret Agent. Now, this movie, I think it's worth saying, none of these movies I think are like bad. The Secret Agent just has me the most confused. I thought it's a great looking movie, but apart from a couple scenes, like the leg scene, there will be probably spoilers for all of these movies, slight spoilers. Probably nothing too crazy, but there was that leg scene where it was like it had a life of its own or something, and then you had the scene kind of that at the end, the chase scene, sort of like that. Those were cool moments. I just a lot like it wasn't engaging in the way that other movies were. I don't really have that much to say about it, and that's kind of why it's bottom of the list. Number 9, I have Frankenstein. Now, pretty much everything from here on, I wouldn't mind like watching again. I think you could watch again, and I'd have no issues. I have Frankenstein. This was good-looking movie. I forget who plays the Frankenstein, but what I like about it, I know it's ninth, but it took a very different approach to Frankenstein. I like kind of how it was structured, how we got the doctor, his point of view, and then we get the monster, his point of view. And they kind of like thread those in. But other than that, I just think the other movies ahead of this are better. I think the cool thing was like thinking about Frankenstein. It wasn't just you're trying to play God thing. It's like, this is a real question here about you've brought life into this world. Now what do you do? Like if you don't like it, you're not a fan of, you think it's stupid, you just walk away from it. And that's a whole thing in itself, right? So it raised some interesting questions, but I think a lot of the movies were just better, or I got more from them. Like number 8, Train Dreams. Now, I don't love Train Dreams. I don't hate Train Dreams. I think it was a nice, like, relaxing kind of film. I just feel that if you want more life-affirming, if you want more life is beautiful movies, I think there are movies that do this kind of thing better. But it was interesting. I like kind of how it wraps up at the end. Like it kind of has this almost explosion in a way. But it brings up some interesting questions about, life. Is every life like the weight of his life and his story compared to like someone else's? And how does that play into things? Does one have more weight? Does one have less weight? And it also covers good things about like grief and his attachment. Like you felt his pain very much because he held on to these things, and you had those scenes where, was it reality? Like the dreams. For the most part, you could tell there were dreams, but at the end, when he finds the girl outside of his house, kind of tying back to like, is that his daughter? But it doesn't make sense for it to be his daughter. I also thought the conversation that he has with, I don't think it's the park ranger, but what she did, like the surveyor or whatever her job was, enjoyed that. Solid movie. I'm sure a lot of people have this higher up on their list, but 8's a good spot for me. I just like the other movies a little bit more. Above that, I have Sentimental Value. And this, for me, I like how it starts. I love how it ends. I find that transition from that like last scene to when they're in the house and then they kind of pull back and you realize they're on set filming the movie. It brings, I mean, I love that sequence, but the question it brings is, if you are going to be a deadbeat dad, just make sure you create something beautiful. You know, that's what these are really telling us. Not really, but I find it funny that a lot of things, I think, yeah, that's a theme throughout this, and we'll get into that later. We'll get into it later. It's kind of funny, but sentimental value. I liked that, the beginning about the poem in the house, enjoying like the personification of the house, enjoying being full of people, or if it feels light. That was pretty cool. There was that weird scene where the camera kind of like morphs all of them. It's just the black, and it's like morphing them. And sorry. And it kind of had this weird like visual element, which was cool. But I think, to me, I don't relate to it as much. There's some beautiful scenes, especially with the sisters talking at the end, when they like read the script, and they kind of say that I think it's the older sister who's like, I didn't have, I had you. You thought you didn't have anyone, but I had you. And it was like this very sentimental moment. The value be sentimental, I gotta say. But great film. I wouldn't mind watching it again, but I just think everything above this kept my attention for longer, and I relate to it. Or I relate to it. I don't want to say and I relate to it more. But 6, I have F1. I like when the cars go vroom. That's pretty much all I really need to say about it. I don't think the biggest drag, like, this one has high moments, like the sequence at the end where he's flying. It's like a really beautiful scene, and I mean, there's like the racing in this movie is great, how it's shot, edited, all that. But I think the montage in the middle and that whole like clubby, you get like a Hans Zimmer score, and then you have these more like clubby party banger tracks that just don't really make a ton of sense. But F1 zooms into 6th place. I'm going to try and keep this moving here. 5, I have one battle after another. Highlight, obviously, the car chase scene was really big. I love the characters. In this, they all had a lot of personality, and they all had like very memorable. It's just, I think the other movies above this, kind of the story, I was more involved in the story, and kind of more scenes kind of got me invested in the movie. Like, I thought it was good. I just wasn't as crazy about it as other people. 4, but it still makes the top 5. 4, I have Sinners. Obviously, we have to talk about Preacher Boy playing the blues. That whole scene. Like, that scene alone does a lot for this movie. But I like how everything comes full circle, and then especially the revelation that he didn't die. I forget it was Smoke or Stack, but Smoke or Stack couldn't kill his brother, and he ends up letting Preacher Boy live his whole life, and kind of the musical evolution. It was good. It was like visually, it had those like visually explosive moments, the fire, whatnot. But it was extremely enjoyable to watch. Obviously, I'll shout out Michael B. Jordan. Great performance playing two people. And yeah, just everyone kind of did their thing. They were all like memorable, even if the that one guy that goes away and gets like vampired off screen to come back and has that little interaction. It was all just enjoyable. But top 3, we're going with Begonia. Now, this may be higher, or this may be, I think this is probably lower on your list. But what I love about Begonia is it committed to the alien thing. And as you are watching, my experience was, as you're watching, you kind of are questioning. You're like, oh, okay, this guy is crazy. Like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. But then they throw in these moments of like, oh, I'm sorry, you're the queen. I shouldn't. And you're like, okay, it must have been like a glitch, or it must have been something. But then you find out as soon as like he hops in the closet and, you know, gets his head blown off, you think, okay, wait a minute. And then they fully commit, and they're like, yeah, she's definitely an alien. And the way they depict the aliens are really funny. And then how they just kind of wipe everyone off the earth. And it just kind of, it ends. But it was really, like, I think from the moment they have, if you've seen the movie, the moment they have dinner, everything just keeps, like, they keep their foot on the pedal, and they just keep giving it more gas and picking up speed. And it's just really enjoyable. 2 is, at a little bit of suspense, but it's going to be Hamnet. Hamnet is just an incredibly visually beautiful film. It's just well acted. I love how immersive it is, the shots, the cinematography. It's not like anything in particular. The ending is what really sold it to me. Like, it was just a beautiful ending, this kind of full circle. I didn't know much about Hamlet, and I think that might have helped you a little bit, but with a little bit of research, I found it to be, you know, just that little bit more enjoyable. But it's such like a beautiful looking film, and the story's engaging. There's a lot of great character moments. Like, you feel the chemistry. But this is what I was saying. If you are a deadbeat, you know, you construct something like Hamlet, and then it's okay. And then people will forgive you. So just to any of those deadbeats out there, just come up with something creative, world, genre-defining, record-breaking. You know, you heard it from me. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't think I have anything. I mean, I mentioned the performances. The score was amazing. If you haven't seen Hamnet, I was expecting to not like it, or just to kind of feel okay about it, but it ended up being one of the more enjoyable films. I'm going to take a micro pause. I will be back. So basically, give Hamnet a try. You may end up liking it. I don't know what I said, but that's the important thing. Number 1, getting to number 1. It's Marty Supreme, it's Marty Supreme, it's Marty Supreme, it's Marty Supreme. It's everything about that movie to me works. I just kind of like the viewing experience was incredible. The soundtrack is amazing. The performances, kind of how, just everything about it. Like, it's so bold and it commits to everything. I was invested in it, and it has just a bunch of like rich characters. I'm not saying you kind of want Marty to figure it out, and he kind of does. He doesn't really figure it out, but he realizes that, you know, maybe it's bigger than ping pong. But he does get his win in the end, but it's not like he beats the guy and then the guy's like, oh, he has to play for the tournament now. It was more of, it's his micro win in a sea of loss, you know, really. Like, he was just struggling to kind of he would have his wins, and then he would lose, and then he would win. So this kind of, it doesn't feel like totally triumphant. It's like you won, but did you really? Yeah, I don't want to go on and on. This video will be way too long. But yeah, that's everything. Let me know what I got right. Let me know what I got wrong. That's how I'm feeling. 2026 Best Picture noms.